And good Friday evening to you. We thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Glenda Lewis.
And I'm Dave Llewellyn, live at Vincetta Garage in Berkeley. It is a milestone day of sorts here and at restaurants across Metro Detroit. Capacity restrictions eased. Restaurants are able to welcome more customers inside. Taking a look out into the restaurant here, you can see many of the tables with distancing are filled. Of course, safety restrictions are in place here and at all other restaurants. So here's a quick overview for you this evening. Capacity restrictions increased to 50%. With a limit of 100 people, tables must be spaced 6 feet apart. There can be no more than 6 people at a table. But for many restaurants, the relaxed restrictions just aren't enough. Thousands have closed in our state amid the pandemic. Thousands of others are simply hanging on, and the road ahead is a very uncertain one.
It's just time now for us to get our restaurants back. Back to full capacity.
Rosalie Vicari, speaking for many owners, says while the increase to 50% capacity may help smaller restaurants stay in business, it's still not enough. The pandemic has exacted a terrible toll on the industry. The Vicari Restaurant Group shut its Andiamo Dearborn restaurant Sunday after losing $3 million. 3,000 restaurants across the state have closed their doors permanently since the COVID outbreak, according to the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. The trade group also posting this on Instagram, showing Michigan remains more restrictive than neighboring states when it comes to indoor meetings, events, and banquets.
The areas, the states all around us are all back to full capacity. Michigan is still within a restriction, and it doesn't need to be that way anymore.
As much as owners want to see their restaurants full again, not everyone we talked with is ready to come back inside.
No, not yet. I'll probably just be doing takeout for the foreseeable future.
I don't mind doing it once in a while. It's not something I'm going to regularly do, but I am really excited to go out and do something.
It's time to open our restaurants up and let us run our restaurants, let people that choose to come out, come out. And if you don't want to come out, you stay home until you're comfortable with it.
And what we're seeing here tonight, at least, many are comfortable with where we are at right now. Joining me is one of the co-owners of Vincetta Garage, Kurt Catallo. So with easing restrictions today, 50% capacity at this very, very popular restaurant, Kurt, is this a good day for you and for your team?
I think for our team it's just a good day because we had the opportunity to reopen it all. And for a lot of independent restaurants, especially in Michigan, we're one of the lucky ones. That wasn't a foregone conclusion. So just the fact that we've made it this far says a lot. And we're proud that we lost some people to other industries, and we lost some people to other restaurants even, but we didn't lose any of our 700-person Union Joints family to COVID, and that's what matters most. But they're all here to fight another day, and that's what we've been doing throughout.
At 50% capacity, can you break even? Can you make a profit? And understanding that takeout is continuing also.
You know, Union Joints, we're fortunate because our restaurants are typically bigger in scale, bigger footprints. So for us to social distance, it's something we can do to try to find a way through. For smaller restaurants, I can't imagine how you do it at 50%. But one thing about every restaurateur is that they're resilient, they're adaptive, and we're just going to find a way regardless of what's thrown in the path.
What do you hope happens over the next 2-3 weeks as the state looks at what is going to develop inside restaurants like yours?
You know, I hope that we just, if we see that the pandemic is on the road to recovery, then we know that this industry will follow it on the road to recovery. So for us, we're just kind of watching those numbers and hoping for the best. What we don't want to do is get ahead of it so we're back to March of last year because it was the cruelest year and we don't want to do that again.
Yeah, well, hopefully this is the beginning of better days ahead for you and for everyone in this important industry in our state.
And that's, I think it's the key. It's like if you look at what the industry does in America, it's 11 million people that have devoted themselves to it, so they need to find a way through.
Kurt, thank you very much.
You.
Thanks for welcoming us inside tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Kurt Catalo, the co-owner here at Vincetta Garage. So when might we see a further easing of restrictions? We went to the state to find out, and it likely won't happen quickly. The director of the State Health and Human Services says they wait 3 weeks before analyzing 2 weeks of data on the virus. They look for a change in the numbers to determine if restrictions should be tightened or loosened. The department also works with local universities in the decision-making process. And the state's daily count shows almost 1,500 new cases of COVID-19. That's been a pretty consistent number this week. The total to date is now close to 595,000. There were also 10 more deaths. The virus has claimed 15,610 Michigan lives in the last year. Now, the easing of restrictions doesn't come without health risks on both sides of the argument. So our chief health editor, Dr. Partha Nandi, joins me now. Doctor, good evening to you.
Good evening, Dave. How are you?
Good, good. What do people need to know to stay safe if they plan to come inside and enjoy a meal in a restaurant?
A really important question, Dave. So there are several things that you can do. First of all, you don't want to go to a restaurant when it's busy and full of people, right? So I'd call ahead and ask before making plans. And when you have them on the phone, ask this: are the tables 6 feet apart? Do the servers and cooks wear masks? And an important question: how well ventilated the restaurant is. If it's not well ventilated, then airborne transmission can occur even if you're 6 feet apart. Now, before you walk into the restaurant, make sure you're wearing your mask, right? You need to do that. And only take it off when it's time to eat. I've seen people keep it off the entire time. Make sure you just take it off when you're trying to eat. And now, as the weather is starting to warm up, you can also consider outdoor dining better than indoor dining and safer. And you want to follow precautions. Sitting too close still means you could get exposed to the virus from folks at another table.
So the health pros and cons then of easing restrictions for the industry?
Yeah, it's really a tough question, right? So I think the pros and cons really depend on where you're sitting at, but meaning on which side of the argument you're on. But to me, here's what I think the pros are. More jobs, right, which means more money, which means people can have stress levels that decrease, and they can also get better health coverage. A recent study showed 30,000 Americans died because of unemployment and lack of health coverage. So this is important. Another pro is improved mental health. People can get together and socialize more. I mean, so many of my patients complain about that. And also, you know, people who are unemployed in the healthcare industry, not the healthcare industry, but the hospitality industry rather, it helps them mentally by giving them purpose, by getting back to work. Now, what about the cons, right? Here's what's not so good, because we know that eating out can increase case numbers, eventually lead to hospitalizations and death rates. And past experiences have shown this, and this is important to understand. If you lift restriction too soon, it can lead to another wave of infections. Really important to understand that. And now we have variants, right? We don't have just the original coronavirus 19, but we have variants, and evidence suggests that the variants first found in the UK, which is called B117, 43 to 90% higher reproduction rate, which means that it can infect you quicker. So we could get infected much more. So very concerning. I think you put the pros and cons together, and let's listen to our state officials. They're looking at this every single day, and if they can open up safely, they will. But let's not go hog wild and say, now the case numbers have decreased. Let's remember, 60,000 cases still, right, every day. It's not like it's over. And you want to be able to get it down below 10,000 cases. I agree with Dr. Fauci. So I think we got a little bit more to go. I think if we have a little patience, we can get there safely.
Well, and as we mentioned, some people comfortable, some not. This is the first time I've been inside a restaurant at lunch or dinner time, except for takeout, since the pandemic began. So that's one indication. Dr. Nandi, we thank you for your advice and expert view on things here tonight. And the hospitality industry has been hit extremely hard, of course, by the pandemic. The Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association releasing startling numbers on the losses. In the past years, we've mentioned 3,000 restaurants have permanently closed. 200,000 jobs have been lost. More than half of all hotels remain at risk of foreclosure in 2021. This industry is the state's second largest private employer and is responsible for 12.5% of the workforce and 10% of the state's economy. Big, big numbers. So tonight, we wanted to know, do you feel comfortable dining inside a restaurant? You can tell us right now at WXYZ.com/vote. We will have the results for you of tonight's online poll coming up a little bit later on Action News. That's the story from here for right now. Let's send it back to Glenda Lewis in the studio with more on tonight's